because I couldn't manage the steps. And I remember one of the guys from the airport saying, "Do you still need the ambulift?" And I remember saying to them, "Well, your heat in Barbados is very good, but it hasn't improved my MS. So I still do require the ambulift, and I'm sorry if it's going to delay everybody."
Mm-hmm. Yes, the Caribbean can be a challenge when it comes to wheelchairs, especially around the old town centres with the deep drains and things like that.
Absolutely, yes.
You said that you've got an electric wheelchair now and you travel that. Have you found it a challenge to get on board with it? Have there been some rules or regulations you just don't understand?
There have been, certainly. I don't understand. Maybe it's my own naivety. I don't understand why we have to unplug the batteries for the wheelchair, etc. And then I have to take all of the foot plates off and so on and so forth, remove the cushions. I do understand with all of the heightened terrorist attacks that you have to make sure that everything's safe for the safety of every passenger, and I totally agree with that. And I don't think that we should be dealt with any differently as people travelling in electric wheelchairs. However, taking my wheelchair to pieces and then hoping, above all hopes, that all of the bits and pieces are still available to put together again when you get to the other end of the journey is something that I don't enjoy.
Simon, there's a lot of redevelopment going on at the airport. Are you being consulted about how these plans are coming into effect?
Yes, we are. I'm glad to say there's a monorail, I think, or monorail type being developed from Parkway services to the terminal to improve the speed at which passengers can transfer from the rail system to the airport without encroaching loads of traffic. And the airport have been really positive about that, and they've been consulting widely and ourselves with regards to disability issues as well. And it's nice to see that they're going to take on board those type of concerns and do that right from the outset, rather than having to adapt or repair or change things after they've put measures in place already.
That's definitely the best way to go around it, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's very useful to talk to the people that do experience the problems with mobility or other concerns in the first place, so that they could identify them early and make measures or implement measures to secure the proper implementation of the system.
If you live in Bedfordshire, you can find the Disability Resource Centre at www.drcbeds.org. And their number is 01582 470 900. If you don't live in Bedfordshire, I'm sure they'll be able to put you in contact with the right people should you have any queries about your rights as a person with mobility or disability issues. They'll be the people to talk to and get you in the right place. So say it's drcbeds.org. And as always, as I mentioned earlier, you better find the contact details at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show.
Hey Dave, it's your round, mate.
Yeah, my throat's drier than the Gobi Desert.
All right. Beers all round, yeah? Okay, which one of you jokers has got my wallet? Well, I haven't got it. God, he'll do anything to save a few quid.
Yeah, that's right. He's always had short arms and long pockets.
Seriously, guys, someone's nicked it from my bag.
If you lose your wallet, passport or tickets while you're on holiday, your mates winding you up will be the least of your worries. Keep your valuable stuff locked up safely when you don't need it. And if you're on the beach or by the pool, only take the cash you need.
For more information, go to gov.uk/knowbeforeyougo or follow us on Facebook or Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at holiday_hut. If you've experienced good or bad service when it comes to holiday and you're a person with disabled needs or reduced mobility, please do share your stories at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. I'd like to praise the good ones and try and chat to the bad ones if you get in contact with me. When I was a travel agent, you wouldn't believe the problems I had to deal with trying just to make a nice simple holiday for somebody just because they had mobility needs that needed to be catered for. It was unbelievable at times, trying to get simple information such as the door wide enough for wheelchairs And are the taps suitable for people with arthritis? That used to be a real killer. No, very rarely did a room have taps that somebody with really severe arthritis be able to operate easily. You would really think that all these sort of problems could be sorted ages ago. But before I start going on my soapbox again, if you've had any good or bad experience when it comes to travel, flying out of the UK, sailing out of the UK, or even staying in the UK, please do contact me at the Facebook page, John Guinn Travel Show. Now, you're probably aware of EU 261. If you haven't heard me talk about it or my guests talk about it on the show over the last few years, you've probably seen ads for it all over the local newspapers. It's a regulation that helps people get compensation should their flight have been delayed or cancelled. Most of the time, it seems that the compensation you get is more than the actual price of the ticket, which does seem a little bit unfair if you're an airline. But it's one of them things, and it's one of those things that's going to be putting the prices up. A few years ago, Ryanair already said they were charging an extra £1 per ticket to put into a fund to pay out when they needed to under this regulation. Now, the EU has regulations for all sorts of transport where you have to buy a ticket, stuff you're probably not aware of. And one of them is another catchy name, 1177/2010. And this is the regulation on maritime passenger rights. We're going back to my first guest, Adam Mortimer from the European Consumer Centre now to find out more about it, including whether anybody actually know that thing exists.
I would say it's not as well known as Reg 261, but then I think it probably depends who you talk to, because you might find that the same passengers who are using aircraft might not be using passenger ferries and cruises and stuff like that. So I guess it can be one of those subjects. It depends who you're talking to.
In the experience of your office, do you feel there's less problems with maritime travel when compared to flying by air?
I mean, I don't have figures about complaints against maritime travel, but it's certainly something we don't see a lot of through ECC. So it's one of those lesser subjects that you never come across that often.
Does this cover inland water as well as travel by sea?
Basically, you've got anything with short distances, small capacity, like vessels and small crew numbers generally are excluded from this regulation, along with excursions and sightseeing. So it is more your travel from A to B, which is a bit longer and a bit bigger than your average boat on a river, that kind of thing.
Does it cover delays and cancellations the same way as EU 261?
Yeah, it's pretty much the similar premise as 261. It's a bit different in what you get, but yes, it follows that same route.
There's time limits involved before EU 261 kicks in. How does time affect this particular regulation? Okay,
so you get the delay is sort of considered anything more than about 90 minutes. And that's where you'll find you're entitled to rerouting to your destination or reimbursement.
Does this only cover passengers who've had a direct contract with the owners of the ship or boat? I mean, for example, if you're on a coach trip to France for the wine, does the ferry have to look after you, or do you have to speak to the coach company?
As with Reg 261, it's for the passenger. So the passenger has the right to go to the carrier. It's never through that middleman. Your rights as a passenger are through that carrier. So regardless of your booking, you may have that protection through other legislation. So that's worth noting. Sometimes you've got package travel regulations. If there's certain parts of this that might be just standard consumer contract, then you might have other regulations and legislation in the local areas as well.
So the 90 minutes up, what must the owners of the ship or boat provide?
Okay, so as I said before, it's a refund or rerouting. So if you go for a refund, it'll be a full refund of the unused portion of your travel. If you accept rerouting, then you may be due either 25 or 50% of the ticket price, 50% being for much longer delays rather than the standard 25, which is kind of the main catchment of it, I think.
Does this only apply for people travelling within the EU or the members of the EU, the EAA, or I always get that bit wrong.
Yeah.
Or is it, or people travelling into the EU, are they covered as well?
With a ferry, if you're coming into or out of the EU, you're covered, but it has to be on an EU carrier, so one of those that is registered within one of the member states. Cruises are when you embark in the EU, but you do have restrictions on what you can apply for with regards to the redress on that. So it's not just as simple as saying you've got rights because you're within that, but what you get may differ depending on the circumstance.
Does it specifically have rules and regulations for disabled passengers?
Yes, so that certainly comes into it. The same with the disabilities on flights. It's the same with how it works. You have to notify before through the agents and stuff like that.
So as with flying, the owners of the boat or ship can refuse boarding if they can't get you on board.
Yeah, same applies. If it's safety, if they can't physically get you on board, but you'd hope all these things come up before you actually get to the embarkation point, really. But sometimes they don't, I guess. Yeah.
So how can a passenger complain if they feel that the company did not comply with 1177?
Again, each EU member state country has their own designated body for enforcement. In the UK, this is the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, so that's probably your first point of contact. Again, advice-wise, you've got many different bodies, ourselves, the National Helpline, that kind of thing, to get you to that point. But, overall, you might find that if you're not getting what you need, the enforcing bodies are the one to make your complaint to.
So how can we find out more about passenger travel rights and consumer rights within Europe? So, obviously anything cross-border-wise, you can come to us. We've got lots of information on our website, which is www.ukecc.net. Or you can give us a call. It's quite easy to chat over these things, and you usually get through to someone quite quickly. That's 01268 886690. Okay, Adam, thank you for your time.
That's right, thank you.
As I said earlier, all websites mentioned on the show can be found at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. Just look for the entry for the 8th of December. As well as the UK ECC's website, there is an app for your smartphone. I've had it on my phone for ages. It's worth having. It gives you all sorts of travel and consumer advice. It doesn't matter what your mode of transport is. If you go to Apple, it's search for ECC-Net and travel, and then the app will come up. I had it on my Samsung as well, so it is out there for Android. And it is worth having, because you never know what you might need some consumer advice. And if you've got it on your phone there and then, it's a lot easier to do than trying to suddenly find a computer to start searching the interweb. If you've ever claimed or know somebody who's made a claim on 1177/2010, I am really interested to hear the story. I've only been in travel since 2004 and I've never come across anybody claiming on it, to be perfectly honest. I don't even remember it mentioned in travel trade magazines or on travel agent forums. But I'm sure there's been people out there who've been delayed, had problems and had to put a claim in, and I'd just like to know how it went. If you have any history of this regulation, please do share your story at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. You can keep up to date with travel news and leave me a message at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. And now for the travel news and travel tips part of the show. I'm starting off with winter sports. Research from ABTA, in partnership with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, or FCO, has found that a third, 33% of snow lovers, never check whether they have taken out appropriate insurance for the activities they're going to do, which includes the skiing and snowboarding, which is probably the reason they booked the holiday in the first place. Those over 55 are most likely to travel without the appropriate cover, with almost half of that group, 46%, admitting that they never check that they have covered for winter sports. And this is significantly above the general average of 33%. European resorts have seen 58 British deaths and 118 hospitalisations from skiing and snowboarding holidays in the past 4 years. Thousands suffering more injuries both on and off-piste. Michael Wiebert, the head of